Hi, everybody. Michael Haas back with another episode of Debits and Credits with Haas and Dawe. And today we're going to talk about the importance of trade organizations, such as we as accountants. We have two trade organizations we belong to. What had been the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Well, actually, it had been the American Institute of Accountants, and then it changed to the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and now it's the Association of International Certified Public Accountants. So it's a growing trade organization that watches over what we do at the national level. And in California, we have CalCPA, the California State Association for California CPAs, that takes care of us from that regard as well. Well, in the escrow world, there are three main trade organizations that represent the escrow entities in California, and we think these are very important. One of them is the American Escrow Association, one of them is the California Escrow Association, and one of them is the Escrow Institute of California. But we're going to talk about these three bodies today in this episode of Debits and Credits with Haas and Dawe, and of the importance of being a member of these associations, because they do represent you at the national and at the local level and in the California level in trying to keep your best interests in front of the people who pass the regulations and the rules that affect you. For example, we just talked about in a prior episode about what's going on with FinCEN reporting. Well, all three of these associations were involved in writing to the lobbyists, to the government, to the state area about getting the opinions of the local escrow industries and the local escrow settlement agents in front of the people who set the rules, knowing the difficulties of any rules making and any procedure that had to be followed, which I know contributed to the judge in Texas ruling against FinCEN for the time being. Well, let's start with the American Escrow Association. It's a national association. California is one of 8 states that make up what we call the AEA, and it's something that is a unique situation because each state does escrow and does the settlement agency work differently. California, Nevada, Colorado, these all do different. Arizona, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, New Mexico, Nebraska, they're all different. And what goes on within these agencies is that the American Escrow Association is able to pull together what they all work on in their own ways, that it makes it sense at the national level when they talk to members of Congress. When a rule comes out that affects real estate, how it affects the people who are doing all the settling of the real estate transactions. And we got involved with the American Escrow Association in probably about 25 years ago. I was asked to speak at one of their year-end annual conferences and talking about real estate transactions involving foreign sellers. And then I got a little bit more involved. And the story I'll tell you is that it had to be back in probably the early 1990s, and the IRS had come up with a committee called IRPAC, IRPAC, which was a Public Advisory Committee on Information Reporting. So Information Reporting Public Advisory Committee is what IRPAC stood for. And I volunteered for the committee. Well, I got turned down in favor of a gentleman by the name of Arthur Davis. Well, Arthur Davis, at that point, and unbeknownst to me, was the lobbyist and the executive director of the American Escrow Association. He also had a lot of exposure with Treasury, and he used to work for the Internal Revenue Service. And he also then became an attorney who worked with a lot of tax law. And then 3 years later, when it came up again for renewal of this IRPAC, I applied again, and I was turned down again. And guess who got the spot? Well, Arthur E. Davis III got it again. Well, that made me a little bit mad. So who was this guy, Arthur Davis, who keeps getting appointed? Well, it turned out when I got involved with the American Escrow Association, I learned that Art Davis was the executive director, massively involved, very knowledgeable. And so it actually made a lot of sense that he was the member on that committee and not me. And we joke about it a lot. And Art unfortunately passed away last year, but he left a very deep legacy with the American Escrow Association, with his ability to go through, read regulations, read proposed legislation, and get it back to the association. Now, the benefits of AEA is that you have national lobbying efforts relating to policies, regulations affecting real estate closings, the 1099-S form, FIRPTA, which is the Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act, which is foreign sellers. This whole deal with FinCEN, with national mortgage laws, when mortgage meltdown happened in the early 2000s, and between the second Bush administration and the Obama administration, with the creation of the CFPB and how lenders were affected and how this was going to roll down to escrow and all these rules that affect the settlement agents. This is what the American Escrow Association gets involved with. In addition, whenever something comes out with new regulations and new rules, new rulings from the courts, the American Escrow Association disseminates this information to all of its members. It's something that affects all the settlement agents on a day-to-day basis, and it's something that fortunately there is an American Escrow Association that can cover this information and get it passed out to all its members. And it's been a good association for us because we've gotten to know people throughout the various states, from all the members of the AEA, and learn how do they do escrow. We've been invited to different conferences, and we've worked together with them to help strengthen its association so that it can continue to provide the information out to the settlement agents on a national level. Now, if we downsize into California, there's the California Escrow Association, and the members of the California Association are individuals and from all types of the escrow entities in California. So they're escrow officers, they're escrow assistants, they're escrow instructors, and whether they're dealing with real estate, whether they're dealing with refinances, whether they're dealing with bulk sales, all different types of escrow transactions are being represented by the individual members into the California Escrow Association. And whether it doesn't matter whether these people work for entities that are regulated by the DFPI for independent escrow, the DRE for real estate brokerages, DOI for title company insurance escrow divisions, the DFI, Department of Financial Institutions, for those banks and credit unions that have their own escrow divisions, and for attorneys represented by the California State Bar. These are the people who can provide escrow settlement services in California. So you have a wide variety of escrow officers and escrow people who are members of CEA because they come from different regulators. But one thing that's pretty cool about this is that all the members of the CEA they do escrow the same way. So it's important to them to follow the rules. Now, what's a benefit for at the California level is the same thing at AEA. You've got lobbying at the California legislature level, lobbying with the governor's office, lobbying with state legislators who don't fully understand the impact of legislation on the settlement agents, what's going on. For example, it must have been maybe 10, 15 years ago that a California legislature, not fully understanding what was going on with her legislation, had passed a bill to undo, revoke, unwind the bulk sale laws in California. Now, bulk sales have to do with sales of businesses, and there are certain rules that have to be followed relative to disclosing the sale and notice to creditors and so on. Well, this legislature wasn't being nefarious about it, but had attached it to one of her bills to undo the bulk sale laws. Well, what happened was the escrow world got together in California, and whether it was independent escrow, real estate escrow, insurance escrow, attorneys escrow, anybody who touched escrow lobbied and got this part of the legislation removed, and was able to convince the state assembly person that it was bad. It was a bad piece of legislation, and so she gladly removed that part of her bill. So this is what the benefit of what CEA can do for you. CEA also provides ongoing continuing education to the members with annual conferences, with regional education seminars and meetings, with lunch and learn sessions, with newsletters and blasts and webinars to get out to its members to understand what's going on in the settlement agent world. The third member of this triad we're talking about is the Escrow Institute of California. The Escrow Institute of California, the members are independent escrow companies. So in this place, it's some companies that are the members of the association, as opposed to CEA and AEA, where the individual members, where the individuals are the members of the association. Now, one thing else is that to mention is that all three of these associations work together because with the CEA, if you're a member of CEA, you're automatically a member of AEA. And the Escrow Institute, while it's representing independent escrow companies in California, does collaborate with AEA and CEA in putting together white papers and putting together amicus briefs that go before courts and go before the legislators, both at the national and at the local level. So a benefit of American Escrow, the Escrow Institute of California, again, you have lobbying efforts in California at the governor level and at the legislators level. There are ongoing continuing education at regional and statewide. Every year there's an annual conference, the Escrow Institute of California. Plus there are regional meetings and meetings throughout California that deal with different measures that are going on to keep the members of the association educated and informed of what's going on with that affects them as a daily basis. And because in the one way, independent escrow competes with broker owned escrow divisions and title company escrow divisions, even though they work together to do escrow the right way, they all have the certain matter of trying to maintain their separate rules and separatism. And so that's why also the Escrow Institute of California, on behalf of its members, works directly with the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. That's the regulator for independent escrow companies. So that the DFPI people can understand the impact of their regulations and their regulatory audit program, how it affects the members of the Escrow Institute of California. Benefit of all three of these associations, power of community, talking to each other, continuing education, informing the legislators, the governors, the people in Congress back east, Department of Treasury, all these people understand what they're doing. And one other in a different way, from the tax part of things and from that regulatory that we've been dealing with intimately for the last going on 8 years, is dealing with in our accounting world, or the Financial Accounting Standards Board that we've talked about before came up with these new rules about lease accounting, and we've been lobbying. Shouldn't say lobbying. That's probably the wrong influential word to use. We've been dealing with the members at the accounting board, informing them of the impact of these lease accounting rules on our escrow companies, and not ours, but on the escrow companies. Obviously, a lot of them are our clients, to try and understand the impact that the rulings and the regulations are having on these companies. And so this power of community, this power of being able to communicate with the people who are setting the rules, is a very big benefit of being a member of a trade organization. So we definitely encourage our clients and all people in the escrow world to be members of the local trade associations that they can, and whether it be California Escrow Association or the Escrow Institute of California, these give you broad benefits across the board. So we definitely encourage that type of a membership. And then it just flows upstream up to the American Escrow Association, because that's going to oversee the efforts at the national level. So that's something we think will benefit everybody, and it's something to look forward to their communications coming out to you, so you can help you strengthen yourselves, and plus also you can be informative to the clients you work with. That's this episode of Debits and Credits with Haas and Dawe. Trade organizations are important. We'll be talking to you soon in an upcoming podcast.